Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laural Porter. We're talking about the state's plan to reduce traffic congestion and improve the state's infrastructure. It's something the Port of Portland says is critical to the state's economy. Welcome to my guest, the director of the Port of Portland, Bill Wyatt. It's great to have you back on the show.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
How would you describe the current transportation system and how it's affecting the Port of Portland and Oregon's economy?
You know, I think one of the interesting things about transportation is that just about anybody who lives in this state can look out their window and do their own little assessment. Congestion has never been worse than it is today. We have these huge bottlenecks, which the legislature is talking about addressing. We have nearly full employment, and so a lot more freight on the road and a lot more employees on the road, not to mention those of us who are just traveling about for our own purposes. And so with all of that growth and with no expansion, the obvious thing occurs, which is that the rush hours are really rush hours now, and they last longer and longer. The freight delays are longer and longer, and so it's been a very difficult period without much hope until, you know, the legislature delivered this package the other day for everybody to take a look at.
What do you think of it? You heard the senator earlier. What do you think?
I'm incredibly encouraged. It's a very big, aggressive, ambitious plan, something that Oregon needs and something that our neighbors are all doing. Oregon, California, or rather Washington, California, Idaho are making huge investments in transportation. And so it's something we really need, and I'm really proud of them, frankly, because this is not easy work. It's contentious, it's politically difficult. They've managed to make it bipartisan, which I think is very important. So I think Oregonians should be very proud of the legislature for the effort they're making here.
It included a lot of taxes. Do
Yes.
you think that's a reasonable approach? From the vehicle fees, the registration fees, the gas tax, the payroll tax?
You know, everybody wants these problems solved, and oftentimes they don't want to pay for it. But when it comes to road investments and transportation investments, there really aren't a lot of choices. You've got the gas tax, you've got vehicle registration fees, titling fees, and so forth. None of those can be used for transit. So if you want to expand transit on a statewide basis, you have to come up with some new vehicle to do that. And the legislature is proposing this very small payroll tax to do that. We have one already in the metro area. I think that's a reasonable approach. And, you know, these are elected officials. They've got their ear to the ground. They're listening to people. They're listening to the stakeholders. And so I'm pretty confident that by the end of the session, I'll have a package that'll pass muster.
Every year you work with the Portland Business Alliance and put together this value of jobs report. And every time that report comes out, it says to grow the economy, to grow jobs, to get more jobs, it's critical to have an efficient and reliable transportation system.
Yes.
Does that get us there?
This is a huge step in that direction. The three choke points that have been identified, I-205, the Rose Garden, which I think everybody knows, and 217, are huge, both employment corridors, but primarily freight corridors, and it makes an enormous difference. I noted that the senator was a little more circumspect about the subject of tolling. I think the 205 would be an interesting place to try that out, do some experimenting with that so that people could at least make a choice about, you know, we'll go the more congested but less expensive path, or we'll go the more expensive but less congested path. And these are the options that I see in other countries around the world. So I think they've made a big down payment here.
What are you hearing from your customers, air travelers and statewide shippers?
You know, one of the complaints we get at the airport frequently now from people is how soon they have to leave in order to get to the airport to make sure they can get their plane, because you just never really know what traffic is going to be like. One little hiccup on 205 or 84 can really slow things down, and so it's a big problem. Shippers, the port is the largest owner and developer of industrial industrial real estate in Oregon. And so we have customers, many of whom are involved in the logistics business. And if you go out to the Rivergate Industrial District at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, it's basically closed because the freeway is simply not accessible to them. And that makes it very, very difficult for people to engage in business successfully.
We have just a little bit of time left, about a minute, but I'd like to ask you, because you're retiring
at
the end of June as the director of the Port of Portland. There may be other things you'll do after that job. You've been at the port 16 years. As you reflect back, how far do you think the port has come, and what issues do you think still remain?
Well, it's been a great 16, 17 years, and I think one of the things that we did that has made a tremendous difference is we've always been an owner and developer of industrial land, but it's always been land that we were essentially given. And we decided to go out and buy challenging parcels like the old Reynolds aluminum plant next to the Troutdale Airport and redevelop that. We've done the same thing with a piece of property in Gresham. And this brings industrial property, job-producing property onto the marketplace that would otherwise not be there, and I'm very proud of that. The airport, 4 years in a row, Americans have voted it America's best airport. I think that string is going to continue. We're going to invest $2 billion over the next few years to make sure the capacity is there. And we continue to have a very strong seaport, major auto imports, but auto exports. So it's been terrific. I think the big challenge for the future is just making sure that you can keep all these plates spinning at the right time.
I'll have to stop you there, but best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Now to our new debate series, Left Hook, Right Jab, with former Portland City Commissioner Steve Novick and KXL's Lars Larson. Tonight they take on the subject so many of you are talking about, the firing of the FBI director. Their question: was President Trump right to fire James Comey?
Here's the only thing you need to understand about this. Clinton committed crimes and Comey covered up. Now, that happened last July, and he should have been fired a long time ago. But President Trump has made the right call in deciding to fire Comey. He stepped way out of his lane. He usurped the authority of the Attorney General, who, by the way, had conflicted herself out because Loretta Lynch had that little private meeting on a private jet with Billy Clinton. The fact is, Comey went way too far. He's lost the authority. He's lost the faith of the FBI, and he's lost the faith of the American people, Steve.
So, Lars, the question is, why did Trump fire Comey now? The White House gave the same reason you just did, that it had something to do with how Comey handled the Clinton emails last July. But that's ridiculous. Trump has known since last July what Comey did with the Clinton emails last July. And since then, he's repeatedly praised him publicly, both in October and January. And Trump deliberately decided to keep Comey on at the FBI after he became president. He fired a lot of other people on his first day as president. He kept Comey on. So it's ridiculous to say that he's firing him because of something he did last July, which leaves us with the obvious other alternative, which is Trump is worried that the Russia investigation is going to turn up something damaging, and he fired Comey to shut down the investigation. And Lars, you know perfectly well that if Barack Obama had fired Comey while Comey was investigating Hillary Clinton, you would have been the first to say that that's obstruction of justice and Barack Obama should go directly to jail, do not pass go, do not collect $200.
Steve, as much as you want this to be Nixon and Watergate, it's not. The fact is, yes, President Trump knew what Comey did last summer, but President Trump wasn't President Trump last summer. And on his first day in office, he had a lot to do. What he's done is he's given Comey a chance. And you know that it's very common in both corporate circles, law enforcement, and even in sports circles to have the boss say, you have my full confidence until the day that he fires you. And as far as the Russia investigation, Comey is the head of the agency, but he's not leading the Russia investigation. And the Russia investigation continues, and President Trump knows that. In fact, Andrew McCabe was before the Congress today saying the Russia investigation will continue. Any interference from the White House will be reported. We have all the resources to do it. And then President Trump sat down with Lester Holt from NBC News tonight and said, I want a full investigation of any meddling by the Russians in our elections.
Well, Nixon said he wanted a full investigation of Watergate, too. Now, Lars, again, this is ridiculous. You're saying that Trump hasn't had time to fire James Comey until today? He's had time to repeatedly attack Arnold Schwarzenegger's ratings on The Apprentice. So Donald Trump didn't fire James Comey until now because he just slipped his mind since January is ridiculous. There is no rational explanation for why he'd fire Comey now, other than the obvious one that he wants to shut down the Russia investigation.
Well, if you have questions and comments, you can send them to us on Twitter at KGW Straight Talk. Thank you once again to my guests, State Senator Rod Monroe and Bill Wyatt from the Port of Portland. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.